You must excuse me. I've grown quite weary.
This hasn't been easy, I know. But you've learned a lesson. A lesson in honesty. Honesty to yourself and honesty to others. That lesson will stand you in good stead all your life.
I think we've all learned a good lesson. I've always heard that honesty is the best policy. Now I'm catching on to why that's so, to why that's so, to why that's so.
Greetings, dear listeners, and welcome to yet another premium episode of Tales from Atlantis. We are your hosts, Kurly Tlapoyawa.
And Tlakatekatl.
So how are you doing, man?
Chilling. Trying to stay cool in these dog days of summer.
Yeah, well, you guys have all the rolling blackouts in Texas going on now, right?
I know. Thanks, Governor Wheels. That's what we call him over here.
That's gotta suck, man. It is so hot. Like today we went on a walk and, just the heat is bad enough, but we have like this roundabout near the end of our street. And so it's all asphalt and you could feel the heat just coming off that asphalt as you got closer to the roundabout. It's crazy.
Man, it's so hot out here. I mean, you just step out and you feel like you're just cooking like outside. Like your brain is just like boiling and like your body just, there's people get headaches just from being outside. That's how hot it is over here, at least in this part of Texas. There's some parts of Texas where it's been raining the last couple of days, and so they're not getting the extreme temperatures that we're getting up here in North Texas. But man, it has been unbearable. We've been, I think this is like today was day 18 or 19 of straight triple digits.
I remember when I lived there, I think it was a record at the time. That's what I remember. It was like 100 days over 100 degrees. And it was freaking insane.
Yeah.
I think
I do remember that.
Yeah, you remember that one? And we were tripping out because when we got there, it was so hot. The dashboard of our car melted.
Jeez.
That's how hot it was.
Yeah. I believe it.
So on today's premium episode, I figured we'd watch this little video. And, normally I'm not one for the Tedx talks because they just kind of seem to let whoever talk on these things now. But
yeah, TEDx used to be something. It used to mean something. Now it's like anyone and their mother can just hop on and say nonsense. And
yeah,
they're a TEDxer now.
Yeah. Now they're part of that club, right? It used to be. But I think the regular TED Talks are still held to a higher standard, right? Don't they?
I have no idea. I don't keep up with it. So
no. Because I think because the TEDx is like the local community TED Talks, and then the TED Talks are like a separate thing that are allegedly held to a higher standard. Like they vet the people more. Allegedly. Yeah, don't quote me on that. Please do not quote me on that. But tonight, I figured we'd watch this TEDx talk by Sarah Kurnick, and it's called Aliens and Archaeology, Why Do We Get History Wrong on Purpose? So let me read the little description that goes along with the video. It states, did the aliens build the Egyptian pyramids? Did survivors from the lost continent of Atlantis invent hieroglyphic writing? No. But massively popular television shows, books, and movies perpetuate, good grief, these claims. In this surprising talk, archaeologist Sarah Kurnick explains why pseudoarchaeology is dangerous and how we should think about the past instead. Dr. Sarah Kurnick is an associate professor of anthropology at the University of Colorado Boulder. She's specializing in the ancient Maya, and her research focuses on the creation, perpetuation, and negation of institutionalized social inequality. Well, that's a mouthful. Her primary interests include the role of the past in shaping the present and how archaeology can foster positive social change. Since 2014, she has co-directed a community archaeology project at the site of Punta Laguna in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. She lives in Boulder. So let's see what old Sarah Kurnick has to say about.
So she perpetrates
pseudoarchaeology. Yeah, perpetrate.
Don't perpetrate.
Perpetuate. They're very similar looking, man.
Don't perpetrate.
Can you hear that?
Yep.
A few years ago, a stranger sitting next to me on a plane asked what I did for a living. I told him that I'm an archaeologist and I study the ancient Maya. He said, "Wow,
That's a trope,
I love
isn't it now?
archaeology,"
Mhm.
and told me how
That
excited
I'm sitting
he
on the
gets
airplane
when hearing
bit.
about new finds. Then he told me how amazing it is that aliens from the planet Nibiru had come to Earth and established the ancient Sumerian culture in Mesopotamia.
Just like the Olmecs prophesied according to
One individual.
What's his name? Chafalocoat, or what's his name?
I remember that video. You know what? I can't find that video anymore.
We need to find it. That should be its own little discussion.
But I remember just how adamant he was. Like Nibiru, Planet X, right? Planet X and Nibiru.
Well, yeah,
and
because
he was like, and it was written.
Right, by the Olmecs, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what he claimed, that the Olmecs had prophesied that Planet X / Nibiru was going to be seen in the year 2012 as one of the signs of not necessarily the end of the world, but the end of the Maya count, the bringing in of the new age. Hint.
And I remember one of the things I remember from that video is he explained it like, all of the solar system goes around the sun horizontally in a circle, but Nibiru has a different path, and it travels vertically, and that's why we never see it, because it's so far away from us on a different trajectory that the orbit is like but now it's coming back around and it's going to collide with us because we're both going in the same direction now.
So what? I
guy.
guess. What's his name? Zach de la Roca had it right when he was saying it's coming back around again. This is for the people of the sun.
This is for the people. I wonder if he was inspired by that. Like, that would make a good talk.
Have these conversations a lot. On planes, in bookstores, and in bars, people want to talk with me about pseudoarchaeology, something that seems like archaeology, but isn't. It involves making wild and unproven claims about the human past. Things like aliens built the pyramids, or survivors from the lost continent of Atlantis invented hieroglyphic writing. Now, most of us know that claims like these are unfounded and, frankly, absurd.
Or at least we should.
Yet they're everywhere.
Yeah,
They're
right?
on TV shows, in movies, and in books. Think of the History Channel series Ancient Aliens, currently in its 15th season. Or of the most recent Indiana Jones movie about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Or Eric von Daniken's classic book, Chariots of the Gods, which has sold over 70 million copies. Here's the crucial question.
Bullshit sells, man.
Who cares?
Right?
It's just entertainment, right? Isn't it a nice escape from reality and a fun way to think about the world? It's not. Most pseudoarchaeology is racist and xenophobic, and like other forms of entertainment, it influences our culture in real ways. Let me give you an example. It's common to hear pseudoarchaeologists claim that groups like the ancient Egyptians or the ancient Maya accomplished incredible things, but only with the help of outside groups, like aliens or people from Atlantis. What you rarely hear is pseudoarchaeologists claiming that, say, Romans had helped building the Colosseum, or that Greeks had helped building the Parthenon. Why is that? For pseudoarchaeologists, Europeans could have accomplished their feats on their own, but non-Europeans must have had outside guidance. Claims like these are not just outrageous, they are offensive. Here, and in so many other instances, pseudoarchaeology sustains myths of white supremacy, disparages non-Europeans, and discredits their ancestors' achievements.
Like,
I've spent
even
the
though
last
this
12
is kind
summers.
of true, most people don't really, like, people who adamantly believe this stuff, even in spite of all the evidence that is presented to them that they encounter on their own, because these people aren't stupid.
Yeah.
They choose to believe this stuff because it's kind of like a religion in a way. It's
In a lot of ways
religious.
it is, yeah.
It's very religiously, like in its thinking, in its motivation, is very religiously inclined. And so, just like religion, it's based on belief and I guess in some kind of faith in their interpretation of the facts and the evidence, and any kind of counter evidence or actual evidence with more correct interpretations of that evidence just doesn't fit the narrative that they want to push. So it's very disingenuous. I mean, a lot of the people that are pushing these ideas, the pseudoscience, are basically making money. I mean, we talked about this when we were discussing what's his name, Hancock. It's a business model, and I'm sure that deep down, Hancock believes some of the nonsense that he spews, but you have to know that, I mean, after decades of pushing this stuff, that there's got to be a degree, a level of critical thinking that must take place with these people, and they understand that what they're doing is wrong, and they just don't care because it's become a business model, the same way that a priest, even though after say several decades, they finally realize that that the religion and the faith and all the stuff that they've been pushing and sort of proselytizing isn't necessarily true, but it's what else do they know to do? That's their lifestyle. That's their career. That's their livelihood.
Yeah, and at this point, they if they fess up or if they admit that they made a mistake, which would be the ethical thing to do, right?
Yeah, right.
Then they lose all their standing, their followers, their money, their lifestyle. So it just gets easier and easier to perpetuate these things. And then their followers, what I see happen a lot is once you're open to believing one thing, it just makes it easier to believe the next out there thing, right? Like it's this, it just perpetuates itself. Like, well, if I believe, chemtrails, those are real.
Yeah, conspiracy theories, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how a lot of people get sucked into these rabbit holes, is they start with one thing that's kind of innocuous and doesn't feel like it's doing any harm, but before you know it, you've gone so deep down that hole that you end up believing in reptilians and deep state and globalists, quote unquote globalists, and we know what that means, right?
Yeah, it just makes it easier because people will ask me like, well, what's the harm, in believing these things? Something that looks innocuous, right? Like you said, like, what's the harm in believing in Bigfoot or whatever, or the Loch Ness monster? And I'm like, well, what it does is it conditions you to not question other things, right?
Or to accept things without good evidence.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. That it makes you more susceptible to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like a gateway drug. The innocuous stuff can be a gateway drug that just feeds into like really dangerous stuff, like.
And then before you know it, you're storming the Capitol.
Yeah. You have been listening to a sample of a premium episode of Tales from Atlantis. For a mere $3 a month, you will get access to our premium content every 2 weeks, as well as to the ever-expanding library of premium episodes. So visit talesfromatlantis.com and click Go Premium. Thank you for listening. Timo Itase.